There's a piece in here called Disinformation in Journalism, The Shape of the Landscape. Okay, so again, this is the publication of effectively the teachers union, including many people in higher ed, Washington branch that represents the unions for most educators across the U.S. who are unionized, which isn't all, but is many. So this whole piece, again, Disinformation in Journalism, The Shape of the Landscape. The whole piece is really deeply slanted, as you might expect, right? It finds nothing but truth and honor over in Democrat side and sort of error and conspiracy thinking on the other side. It makes claims that whatever Republicans have said is clearly mis and disinformation, and whatever Democrats have said is not. And the problem, the article states baldly, about halfway through, is that the mis and disinformation are explicitly political. And this they are telling us is what the problem is. So specifically this paragraph, and I'm going to come back to this paragraph, but this paragraph in this piece is, disinformation is intensely political. PEN America, which is an AFT partner, did a survey of journalists last year that included a question about which potential sources of disinformation are the most egregious cases. 76% of respondents said right-wing conspiracy theorists. 70% said politicians or political organizations. Left-wing conspiracy theorists and foreign government actors didn't even come close at 35% and 30% respectively. Our entire political landscape is being reshaped by misinformation. So I'm going to read that paragraph again after I talk a little bit about what I found on the PEN America and the AFT websites. Okay. Because...
Oh, you didn't find mis and disinformation, did you?
I think I did.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're not very surprised by that, are you? You're not.
Not as surprised as I might be.
Oh my God, yeah. So at the top of PEN, so let's just launch right in. I'm like, okay, well, PEN America did a survey of journalists. So journalists we know to be very left-leaning, right? And let's see what PEN America is. This survey of left-leaning people done by what kind of an organization to see how much we can trust the survey results. At the top of PEN America's website, we have a link to their most recent report, which is titled Reading Between the Lines, Race, Equity, and Book Publishing. And here's an excerpt, and this is not yet one of the screenshots I sent you, Zach. An excerpt from the piece that's at the top of PEN America's website is, recent activism and reform efforts have pressed for a broad scope of actions to overcome systemic racial inequities in the publishing industry and achieve sustained, holistic, and structural change. PEN America's research and interviews suggest that measuring and addressing racial representation in employee hiring, author lists, and published content are key metrics for evaluating long-term diversification. Okay, so we got Affirmative Action 2022 edition, the most egregious and actually anti-inclusive and nastiest form of, frankly, racism that's happening in publishing today, is being explored and appreciated by PEN America. Also at the top of PEN America's webpage, now you can show the next screenshot, if you will, Zach. They retweeted the author of an LA Times op-ed, which reads, I'm hoping
Are you sure this is the screenshot you want me to show?
The tweet?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll go to the next one. But so that's too small for me to see. Let me just, no, it's fine. I'll just pull it up because I didn't have it up yet. So this is a tweet by an author that PEN America has retweeted. If Elon Musk follows through on his promise to create open season for disinformation on Twitter, he will risk destroying free speech in one of our global villages in the name of trying to save it.
That doesn't sound very good.
It doesn't sound very good at all. And when you click through on that LA Times op-ed, what you find, among other things, is, and you can go to the next thing, is this paragraph. Quote, this is again from the LA Times op-ed. When arenas for public discourse are flooded with disinformation, free speech begins to shed its value. If audiences lose their grip on what is true and what is false, they can become primed to distrust everything, and it becomes impossible to persuade people even with the most compelling argument or evidence. If platforms are riddled with propaganda on political falsehoods aimed to skew election results, prospects for genuine discourse on matters of public policy or local affairs evaporate. If the search for reliable information yields nothing but a morass of commingled facts and falsehoods, people eventually stop searching.
So, clearly, having recently come back from Colombia, I am in a mindset to try to translate.
Please do.
And my sense of what they have just said is that they had to destroy free speech to save it.
Yes, that's exactly what they said. Furthermore, the examples they give here include, like, you can point to places where the so-called left, the Democrats, have done exactly the things that they're talking about trying to fight against. But they don't recognize that. The idea that the 2016 election was affected by Democrats who were coming in and trying to make sure that Trump couldn't possibly be elected never shows up in these analyses. Never shows up.
Asymmetry is the weapon underlying all of this.
Yes.
The asymmetric application of whatever standard or definition you want to apply. The whole thing is done, whether you're talking about detecting fraud in scientific publications, whether you're talking about accusations of some moral defect, any of these things. It just requires you to take the standard and point it at those people and, do anything necessary to prevent it from being applied to your own side.
That's right. That's right. So, as it turns out, the author of that piece in the LA Times, which was retweeted by PEN America, is no other than the chief executive of PEN America.
Really?
So, the organization PEN America that did this survey to assess whether or not there was political bias and mis and disinformation in U.S. journalism right now has just a little bit of a problem with political bias. Okay, just a little bit. Okay, so AFT. Let's just go and check out AFT's site. So this is, again, I think it stands for the American Federation of Teachers, although, and again, they're a branch of the AFL-CIO, which is the largest educational, basically union that covers educators in the U.S. In a piece near the top of their site, AFT's site, called Pulling Together to End the Pandemic, which is not brand new, even though it's near the top of their site, which was written as vaccine mandates descended in the summer of 2021, they write, this is the end of this piece. Every one of our members plays a vital role in our state schools, communities, and the lives of Washington students, as well as in the union. Staying safe and keeping others safe by doing what you can, whether that's masking or vaccinating or both, is as essential as you are. The more we pull together, the faster we get the boat we're all in out of the pandemic. Grab an oar and let's pull. I think they've revived the canoe metaphor.
Oh, I hadn't spotted that, but you're right. This is the canoe metaphor.
Oh my God!
And it's also, I guess this is. When did you say it was written?
Summer of 2021.
Summer of 2021.
I think it's 14 months ago.
Back when people still bought the idea that they now claim they never said that these things blocked transmission.
They're lying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. But this was as Inslee, this is again Washington State, this was as Inslee had already declared mandates for, I think it was K through 12 educators, and then separately many of the colleges had mandated for their employees. And then a state politician who actually, we knew someone who worked on his campaign, had said, no, you got to mandate more widely. So this is someone who would run on an extremely liberal, progressive agenda, who's now saying, definitely force people to do things that they shouldn't be doing. Anyway, all of which is to say that both the AFT and PEN America are both extremely, quote unquote, left, I'm going to say pseudo-left, leading organizations. And the AFT has written this piece decrying how political the mis and disinformation is, meaning how right-wing it is. And the only piece of evidence they provide for that is a survey of journalists done by PEN America. Journalists are left-leaning. PEN America is extremely left-leaning and and stupidly so. Like this, I still insist on saying pseudo-liberal, pseudo-left. This isn't. It's not. Yeah. It's not what the left stands for, right?
It's the blue team which claims to be left.
It's blue team, yes. So how many among the smallish number of right-wing or centrist journalists are going to respond to a survey by PEN America when PEN America is what it is? How many? Therefore, this is terrible social science. This is terrible logic. It's being used as evidence in a piece in the AFT's publication, which is supposedly a piece by and for educators. How do we expect students to emerge from an educational system where the union members are publishing this kind of crap, this total garbage that is passing for thought and logic and research? It feels hopeless. Like, honestly, when I read this piece, and I wanted to talk about this specifically because I think it's so uninteresting and banal that it would have passed by most people's notice. Most people wouldn't have read it, right? Like, why would you read such a thing? But my point is, it's everywhere. The really bad logic, the inability to even track that what you have just cited as evidence does not constitute evidence at all. And in fact, the fact that you used it as evidence suggests that you couldn't find evidence if you needed to, and that the problem may be the reverse of what you think it is. Like, this is extraordinary.
It is. I don't think we've come up with a good term for it yet, but the idea that every institution, just like maternal instinct, is being turned to its exact opposite. That we have an academy full of academics who are learning to avoid doing their job at an incredible level, right?
Yep.
We've got, presumably thousands of statisticians who aren't going to spot the abuse of their discipline. We've got doctors who aren't going to spot a pattern of medical harm that's right in front of them and completely avoidable. Everybody is going to avoid doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so the idea that a publication that is ostensibly about a union of people who are dedicated to elevating, to enlightening students as to how to think is going to be confronted with upside down logic that they will then steadfastly avoid noticing, right? I
Can't see that.
It's at some point you gotta see the pattern, right? Yeah. Every institution is the inverse of what the thing over the door says, right? The Center for Disease Control is, right?
The Center for Disease Expansion.
Right, exactly. Right. So, I don't know.
Disease and funding expansion.
Yes, exactly. It is, this public entity, which is supposed to be dedicated to controlling disease, is actually spreading medical harm and functioning, at the very least, on behalf of private interests, right? It's upside down and backwards.